Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feedback bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about movies that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
Today we did Airplane.
Wow.
Airplane.
Jump right in. Whoa.
Airplane.
I don't even have time.
What do you feel about titles with exclamation points in them?
I like them.
Yeah? What does it mean?
Well, I mean, this is supposed to be spoofing like disaster movies of the 1970s. So I think some disaster movies had maybe some exclamation points. Or
Okay.
Like one did or something. I don't know.
Here's the first Sweetie confusion that we'll talk about. Ready? I thought this movie was based a spoof of the movie Airport
Me too.
with Charlton Heston. It is not. It is a spoof of this movie called 0 Hour from 1957, which has like the exact same plot of this guy who has to fly a plane after everyone gets food poisoning.
What?
Yeah.
I thought it was just.
I
It said
know.
in the trivia that I read that it was just a spoof of like a blanket disaster movies in the 70s.
Well, they took the plot, I guess, essentially from this like 0 Hour. But yes, and just spoof and about like airplane stuff, right?
Spoofing, getting spoofing.
But it's great to do what is I mean, would you call are the Mel Brooks spoofs? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So we have done
Spoof of the century.
yeah, spoof of the century. You kind of have like two spoof camps, let's say, right? Spoof camp number one, Mel Brooks. So you got Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights, the Frankenstein one, Blazing Saddles, right? So he's like kind of in one camp doing his own thing. Then you had these directors, wrote it down because I knew I would forget. Jim Abrams, David and Jerry Zucker, who I believe they called themselves Zaz, Z-A-Z.
Oh.
Yeah. And they did all the spoofs that, we all know and love, basically the rest of them that you can think of, either directing or mostly doing the writing, I think, right? Mm-hmm. So this is kind of, I think, might have been their first one, but then it had
Naked Gun. Top Secret.
Hot Shots. Yep.
Scary
movies.
Scary Movie 4.
Yep.
I only saw Scary Movie 4. I didn't see the rest of them, though.
Yeah. But then that became like their sort of thing, right? So awesome. And we love spoofs. I mean, I love spoofs. Do you love spoofs?
I love getting spoofy.
I know. Spoofy is obviously when done well, and these guys are like amazing at it. And all I could think of when I was watching this was that how fun it must have been to write this movie and be in this writer's room and like be coming up with those zingers. Because it's like in Airplane, it is nonstop. I mean, you get like no rest in terms of the spoof. It's almost to the point it's like exhausting. You're like on the brink. You're like, oh my God, I don't think I can take anymore. But they just keep going. And they're really good.
Yeah.
So when do you think, what's your early memory of watching this for our family?
I think it was primarily one that we watched on TV. I know we watched it on TV because there's so much of this that I was like, wow, that's the actual like line, swears and stuff,
okay.
the boobs. Never saw that until later.
Because I think I remember it being one for me. You know how you have those examples where we'd go to the video store with Dad? Idle Times or Empire Video, and when he'd be like, kids, like, what movie do you watch? And we'd be like, yeah, like, you'd be like, I want to do, like, remember when you always picked one? Yeah.
Chipmunk Adventure.
Yeah, but even like more like adult ones.
Oh.
I remember this being mine in some ways. I'd be like, I want Airplane, because I thought it was the funniest thing ever, and like I didn't even get any of the jokes, and I thought it was like so funny, which is, I mean, not only are these like the sex jokes and stuff would be one thing that's over your head, but the jokes, because this takes place in 1980, that are so over my head because I don't know what was happening in 1980, because this would have been like 1995, let's say, or whatever, is like a whole nother level of like not getting it. I still don't get it. I wrote down 5 things I still don't get.
Great. I can't wait to go over them. Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are like of the time where like we probably just like don't have enough insight into that particular joke or whatever. I remember Dad explaining like almost like everything to us.
Exactly. This is a great movie to watch with a parent.
Right, because there's just so much knowledge that we just don't have. I also remember I showed this to like, I made my friends watch this, and I think this is where we rented it.
Yeah.
And we saw the boobs, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize there were boobs in this. But I thought this movie was hilarious. And I don't remember if my friends thought it was as funny as we did, but I don't know. It's like a very specific brand of humor that we really like, which is a combination of like super silly and then like super literal. So like if someone's like smoking or non and you say smoking, you get like a smoking ticket. That's smoking.
Yeah.
Like literal. But then also just like weird.
Yep.
Like unexplainable, like
Some still
silliness.
I either didn't get or I still is like just weird, exactly like silliness.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that you know, a huge part of this movie and kind of the memorable lines are the ones where the lines are taken literally by the people. And for some reason that like slaughters me. I think it is like so funny. I laugh every time. It's never not funny. I've seen this movie 500 times. I've seen it so much. And I was still like cracking up at all those moments. And I just love that about it. And it's like, I mean, it's cheesy, but it's like kind of an exciting movie. And like, you know, it's like a kind of a cool plot. And in doing some research for this movie, you know, I've never looked at the trivia or anything. And I didn't know like too much about it. But for our generation, it's amazing to know that this was Leslie Nielsen's like first comedic role, when for me and probably everyone from our generation, you only known him as having the comedic roles. So that's like nuts to me.
I could have heard that too. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, and actually all of the actors. So they purposely cast people who had never done
Even
comedy.
the main guy?
Yep, Robert Stack.
No, the main, like the
Oh,
Ted Stryker.
Yeah, I don't. I think him
he's
too.
a comedic
I think him too. But he.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he did too. But Lloyd Bridges, Robert Stack. So all those main guys, the guy who played the main pilot. So they wanted them to be delivering stuff straight. So they did want people, you know, they didn't want like a Jim Carrey in there kind of a thing. And I think that was so clever because it did work like so well because they were so serious, and that adds like another level of comedy to it. So it was just like so brilliant. So I love this movie. I enjoy it all the time. It's nice and short too, and it's just like
so short.
You know, yeah, I was like, it was just, and like I said, nonstop laughs, guys. But it's from 1980, so cool. Again, kind of like a little time capsule from that period. So where they're talking about like, you know, political jokes that they throw in here.
Is it supposed to take place in the 80s?
Yeah, I mean, so this is 1980, so very tail end of the 70s. So the early 80s was basically like the 70s.
But they're like making up like stuff, right? Like there wasn't a war.
So
that,
I
like,
know.
he
So
was in.
what war are they talking about? I'm assuming it's Vietnam, and then it's just.
I think they just
like,
made it up
5 years later.
I think they just made it up.
Well,
And
like, but Vietnam stretched like well into the 70s.
but the planes that they show are like World War
I
II.
know.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think they're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
I think it's just silly because
Okay,
they talk
okay.
about like the Barbary Coast or something, which is like off of Africa.
Oh,
so
okay,
like
okay.
I don't I don't think it's like
yeah, like not important.
a real thing. Yeah.
But yeah, like such good stuff, and it definitely like made Leslie Nielsen this comedic actor, and then obviously for us watching it, you're like, oh man, it's the like Unsolved Mysteries guy, you know, like. But again, like I forgot what movie we watched where it was like those were like pretty Lloyd Bridges, famous actors of the time that like we just again like our parents would be like, oh, he's in like all of these old movies and very famous movies, and we would have never
We're
seen
just like
those.
it's the airplane guy.
Exactly, which is like
so sad.
but like kind of cool for those guys because they did get even Lloyd Bridges ended up playing like tons of like comedic stuff after that too. Wasn't he the guy in Joe versus the Volcano? Yeah.
What guy? Which guy?
Remember the guy who makes him jump into the volcano? It was Lloyd Bridges.
The doctor?
Yeah. No. The guy, the rich guy, the dad of the, remember?
Yeah, I think
And
so.
then if you've seen like the Seinfeld where he's like the, what is that called? Feats of Strength
I
kind of
guess
thing.
they caught the bug. They caught the comedy bug after this.
Oh,
You know,
who
It's just
wouldn't,
so much
man?
fun, so they just had to keep doing it.
Yeah. But I love it. So, you know, I think we'll have a quick synopsis, I'm thinking. And then we're just going to like talk about all our favorite stuff,
my
which is
God.
kind of like
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So buckle your seatbelt, guys, your airplane seatbelts. It's time for the sweet synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue. That escalates so badly. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
Yep, it's definitely one of the best parts. We'll talk about it. All right, so airport. We're at an airport in 1980, I guess. Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Los Angeles. Ted Stryker, cab driver, pulls over, leaves his passenger in the cab. Is like, I'll be right back. So he's just had a breakup with his girlfriend Elaine. Elaine, yeah. He's not handling it well. And by that, I mean he's like following her to the airport because she's a stewardess and being like, I love you so much. We have to be together. And she's like, Ted, no, we can't. And like something happened. We don't really know what. Ted used to be a pilot, but he hasn't gotten near planes since because something bad happened. But he loves Elaine so much that he follows her onto the plane anyways, gets a ticket, is now on the plane with her. So passengers come on the plane, pilots, etc. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a co-pilot. No big deal.
Roger Murdoch.
Time for dinner. Meanwhile, Ted is telling his seatmates his stories of Elaine, like his life with Elaine. So they keep doing these flashbacks.
So you get their backstory.
So they met when Ted was like stationed somewhere. Again, it's probably a made up place of somewhere, some kind, some more, we don't know. But they like meet at some disco and fall in love. And then they have this like sweeping romance. And then he gets shipped off to war. But then, something bad happens as we don't know yet, and blah, blah, blah. And then they, like, join the Peace Corps, and, like, they have this whole life together. So, dinner has a choice of fish or steak.
No, chicken or fish.
No, it's steak or fish.
Oh,
Because in the jive part, he's like, slow me in the porter with the sound, like, whatever.
Okay.
But, like, heads up, like, this movie has taught me to, like, never get fish on an airplane.
Who would ever get fish on an airplane, though? I can't believe those were ever the choices. Like, that seems really gross.
know,
And also when you're, like, heating up, when they heat up the food and you can smell it, like, fishy.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been on a plane that has served fish, but maybe it happens. I don't know.
Ugh.
But don't get it. So all the passengers that ordered the fish are suddenly getting sick. You know who else had the fish, sweetie?
The pilots.
All the pilots.
Yeah.
The pilot,
Bad
the
luck.
co-pilot, and that other guy.
Who's the other guy?
The navigator?
Yeah. What
Is
up
that
with
a thing? Is that real?
What up with
Isn't that like all in the front? Like, do you need a navigator?
Yeah, I don't
Could he
remember
even
that
have done
there's
anything?
3 guys in the front, but
Yeah.
maybe
but
I'm
they
wrong.
all had the fish, and they all pass out, too. So all these people are sick. Nobody can fly the plane. Luckily, there's an autopilot, which for the longest time, I thought that really was how autopilots
Oh my God, I wrote
worked.
that down. I thought it was an inflatable guy that sat in there. I mean, I got that it was like probably part computer, but I thought you like had to have the guy sitting
Yeah.
there.
Super
Man, this
confusing.
movie just
Yeah.
caught
Really fucked
led
us
us
up.
astray.
It was all downhill. All downhill from here. So
Fish.
they need to find someone who can fly the plane. They do find a doctor, and he's like, we have to land the plane. All of these patients are going to die.
I think this man's a doctor.
Or is that really a stethoscope, or was it his head? I thought the joke is that it's the airplane headphones.
No, it's
because
his
that lady had them on before.
No, he's wearing a stethoscope.
okay. Well,
I think this man's a doctor.
yeah. So now they need to find someone who can fly a plane. And Elaine's like, I guess I know someone. But she doesn't ask him. The other stewardess finds Ted first.
Yeah.
Elaine's like, I'm not even going to ask Ted because she knows that Ted has problems.
Well,
with
he knows
flying.
he's a basket case and he has horrible PTSD.
It's either him or no one, Elaine. Like, figure it out,
I know.
whatever.
Elaine needs to get a grip.
So he's like, okay, if they like trick him into coming to the cockpit, and then he realizes there's no pilots, whatever. So he's like freaking out, but he knows he has to do it. As luck would have it, the guy they call in to help him through this is his old person who was also talking to him on the radio in the war when his like plane went down.
His old commander or whatever
Yeah.
of the Air Force.
So he's talking through it. It's all very crazy. Elaine is his co-pilot. There's all these obstacles. Fog. It's foggy because they have to land in Chicago, so there's like lots of fog. But he does it.
Yeah.
He fucking does it.
I know.
Terrible. Maybe the worst landing in history, but he landed it.
Might have been the worst landing in the history of this airport.
But
God, I'm proud of you.
and then that's it. And they rekindle their romance, and the passengers get off safely and shipped off to the hospital. Hopefully they all survive.
Yep. And Ted proved he could move on from the war.
Yeah.
And that's what Elaine wanted. So then they're back in love and ready to make babies.
I'm still. Why did the relationship end again?
Because he I think he just like kept reliving the past so much. So it sounded like that he was on some mission and like all these guys died on his mission and he blamed himself or something like that. So because he was able to like save people in this instance, I think that like reversed the curse, let's say,
Well,
and he like
because
didn't
the
feel like
doctor
such a loser.
ended up, Leslie Nielsen's was like, oh, this patient I had once in the war,
yeah.
and it ended up being
George Zip.
Zip.
Do one for the zipper.
So now that he knows that George Zip like had I forget what happened like with that, but it makes him feel better, and he can do it. That's what makes him like go back and land the plane. But yeah, he got through it. But anyways, I mean, that's again, as Sweetie said, super short synopsis, but the real guts of this movie are just all the constant jokes and funny situations that happen throughout, which we are going to talk about right now. Okay, so right off the bat, obviously the movie is funny right away, but it opens with this fantastic riff on Jaws, which is great. And I don't think I understood that when I was little, but I don't think... No, I did understand it because I had seen Jaws when I was 6 and was petrified. So, but I didn't appreciate it because it was a little scary for me because, that music just really, it's like me, I'm like Ted with the planes, with the Jaws music. I'm like, oh my God.
I forgot that part was in the beginning. I guess I never missed,
so
I missed
like
the credits a lot.
The plane thing is like the fin and then it like comes up. So that's funny. But then we have this great scene of like airport stuff. And 1980 airports are pretty different than today's airports, obviously. But some of the stuff is still the same. Yeah. So you have those. My favorite part is the intercom people. So there's like a woman and a man on the intercom. And they make these announcements. And I don't know if our airport does this, but I feel like when we went to LA, like I feel like I heard them say this.
Did you read the trivia about this?
They use like the actual people who did the voices for like the LAX airport or whatever.
Who are an actual married couple.
Oh my God. So there's just like, they keep going back and forth. Like the red zone is for loading and unloading.
Do not
like
park.
In the white zone is for loading and unloading, and you cannot park in the white zone. And they just keep having a fight like back and forth until at one point she goes, Frank, we all know what this is about. You want me to get an abortion. I did not know that
I
was
missed that
the
part. I guess I wasn't listening when I was little and I was watching this because I was like,
or we just,
what?
Yeah, like we didn't know what that word meant or something. So we like didn't, it just like went right over our heads. But it's so great. And then this other part, which I was definitely confused about when I was little, all these people keep coming up and like giving you the characters flowers, and they're like, we're from the church of whatever, and they're just like, it's a different church like every time thing. Like I never got that. And it's definitely not a joke that is going to like carry over well today because like you can't be in an airport like in that area like if you don't have a ticket, right? So you don't have like loiterers like trying to sell you shit.
So I'm assuming that so before that was a thing and before security was really an issue at airports, you did have these people like from all these religious groups or whatever giving you flowers, Hare Krishna people, whatever, doing all that stuff. Scientology, I think, is one. So my favorite. So that's like the beginning one, and like Ted, like they're just like annoying, right? But then when this happens again, because the who's pilot, the guy Kramer has to come through the airport to like he's the Robert Stack guy, and he like starts fighting all of them and like punching them and flipping them. And my favorite line is this guy goes, he like pushes away first, and then he comes back and he's like, "How about Buddhism?" Remember that part? And then he flips over the next guy who goes, "How about Scientology?" So I was cracking up.
And then the last guy just like sees this happening and is like, "Whoa!" and then like leaves.
But as soon as the Buddha, how about Buddhism? The way he says it, oh my God! Like,
I mean, it does remind me of like the Jehovah's Witness people that just like stand in the T and like stand there. They don't bother you, but they just like stand there smiling. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Also, remember that lady in Somerville who had the fake flowers? Yeah, who would like give you one and then be like, "Here you go," and you'd be like, "Wow, thanks," and she'd be like, "Give me money," and you're like, "No."
Oh yeah. So. It was weird, but you can definitely imagine that airports were a place where those people would be like, because there's just so many people, and you could get, coming and going, and you could definitely like convert people, or like whatever the hell they do.
The other thing I loved that I totally forgot about is like, so they have like the announcements, and these definitely still happen, I feel like, today. But this one was like, Captain whatever, like, please go to the white courtesy phone. And then the guy goes to like, there's like a whole row of courtesy phones, and they're all different colors. And he picks up like the red one. And she's like, the intercom's like, I said the white courtesy phone or something. And then the announcement keeps happening, and he goes, I got it. It's good. It's great.
And then I totally missed this line where like he's talking to the Mayo Clinic because they have a girl who needs a heart transplant like on the plane. So then they're like, Captain, like you have another call on the other line, Mr. Ham or something like that. And he's like, okay. He's like, ham on, like, give me the ham, but hold the mayo. Being like the hold the mayo call. Missed that one, but good, clever, funny. Loved it.
Funny.
Loved it.
Yeah, so that's most of the airport humor.
And then once you get on the plane.
Yeah. Oh, you know what other part I like loved involving the airport? When they're like, the no frills passengers are now arriving, and they like tumble down the baggage claim into the thing.
Those are the no frills passengers? Okay, I didn't understand that. I was like, so they didn't have seats? They like flew like baggage?
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
That's funny. I liked it. I liked it a lot. All right, so now we're on the plane, right?
Yep.
What do you want? Do you want to talk about the things you were confused about first, or do you want to talk about your favorite parts?
Okay. I kind of have it like all together. Let's do favorite parts, I guess. Okay. So I guess if we're on the plane, yeah. So I love the part where Ted is talking to people about this story. So like we said, that introduces all these flashbacks which are also really good. So my first favorite flashback, well, really. Oh no, they're all kind of my favorite. So the first one is so they do like kind of spoofing movies in this as well. So there's a couple. So obviously they like spoof this main movie they took the plot from, but then they also spook Saturday Night Fever and From Here to Eternity. So the Saturday Night Fever one is that he's in this bar as like a pilot on like leave, and then this is when he like meets Elaine. It's like a really rough and tumble bar. And the part I remember always when I was a kid was that there's these two girls fighting, and they are like blondes with pigtails.
I thought they were twins, but looking back now, watching it, I guess they're not.
No, they're not. And I don't know what their deal is. I think it's supposed to be sort of like girls that are fighting are hot kind of a thing, which I'm always like,
it's just
gross.
Like a joke. Like it's such a rough and tumble place, but then you have these two like women who are dressed like little girls, like having a full on like male fight.
Oh, and it gets so rough.
Yeah.
And I remember like as a kid being like, what is happening? Like it's so crazy. And they like, you can see their underwear the whole time because they keep doing like flips and anything. Anyway, so one of the girls crashed into the jukebox. So then Staying Alive comes on from Saturday Night Fever. And then he's in like a white suit anyway because of the military dress. And then she's in like this red dress. So it's actually like exactly like a scene from Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta and whoever the girl is. So they start dancing. But first she's dancing with this like old man. It's like old fisherman who then gets stabbed on the dance floor. That's my favorite part. And then he starts doing these motions to like point to the the knife in his back, and she thinks it's like a dance move. Oh my god,
she's like yeah,
it's like
doing it,
pointing like one finger to her back, and then she's like two fingers, and then he's like, and then he falls over and dies. And then Ted's able to come, and they do this like hilarious spoof on like the Saturday Night Fever dance stuff, and it's like really good. So like I love that. So anyway, so these are all the flashbacks that Ted is telling. So every seatmate that he has kills themselves because he's like the worst storyteller. So first is like this old lady who hangs herself. The second is this Japanese like soldier general. He's called like the Japanese general in the and you know who he is? What actor?
The dad from Wayne's World.
Yes,
too.
who does like all of the character actors.
actors.
Yes. Oh my god, his name is James Hong.
Really hilarious fake mustache.
Oh my god.
Maybe may not have felt.
So he stabs himself.
Yeah.
And then the final guy is an Arab who's gonna like emoliate. What is that called? Emoliate. What is that called when you burn yourself?
Oh,
emoliation or something. It's called like that when you set yourself on fire. And he's like, he pours a can of gasoline all over himself and is about to light a match. And then that's when Ted gets like taken away to go fly the plane. Oh my god, like that's so funny.
Does a sigh of relief, but then that like sets the match off with like the oxygen and it blows up, which is like, well, they're on a plane, so like that can't be real.
Wait a minute.
But you know, I
love that.
So let's suspend.
And then also with like the Ted stuff, my other favorite thing is he always talks about his drinking problem. And so his drinking problem is that he like just throws like the water or the alcohol or whatever in his face.
Drink, like he can't drink. He doesn't know how to drink. Drinking problem.
But like I really have that drinking problem too, because so many times I'll be like taking a sip and it just misses my mouth and it gets all over my face.
A drinking problem.
And I always say this line though. I go, I have a drinking problem or something.
Put the cup up too fast. He just like splashes it.
But he splashes
it
in his face. It's really
good. I do enjoy that. Those parts are like gold. I love those so much.
And then and then just if we want to do all the flashbacks.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a Here's Your Journey one, which is pretty good. Like they're on the beach making out in the water, and it's like all crazy. That one's like pretty straightforward. And then the one where they do the Peace Corps, and they like they're in this like remote village, and they're teaching the Western ways to these like Africans or whatever, and like she's teaching them Tupperware, and it's like, this would be great for when you need to package food for monsoon season.
Woman's voice just like puts me to sleep.
She's kind of a bad actress. And then then he tells his story, and he's like, I taught them like rudimentary like calisthenics, and basically I starts teaching him basketball, and he's like, they like have never had any kind of exercise program, but of course they're like amazing basketball players. They look like the Harlem Globetrotters, and they're just like spinning balls on their fingers and like immediately slam dunking. Oh my god, so funny.
It's like inappropriate but like funny. I don't know. A lot of the jokes in this you'll find are, borderline today offensive.
Yeah,
but it's just one of those things where you're like,
Product
wow,
of the times.
Yeah, time of the times. So one of my favorite lines is that, and again, this is like borderline offensive, but they love the Jew jokes, which Mel Brooks does too. But like he's a Jew, and actually, are they the Zuckers? They might be
sure.
Jewish. Yeah. So.
Were there more than one Jew jokes?
Yeah, there are a bunch. But like
my
favorite one is, remember there's the one where that's like the Air Israel or whatever, and the plane is like a yarmulke and like a Jewish guy. But my favorite one is Elaine's like passing out reading material, and she asks this woman, she's like, would you like something to read? And this old woman's like, do you have anything light? And she like flips through, and she's like, She's like, how about this leaflet? And it's just like a single piece of paper, and she's like, famous Jewish sports legends.
I know. I never got that watching this as a kid. Or I missed it or blinked. That's the thing with this. Like, you blink and you miss a joke.
Yeah.
You go to take a piss, you miss 10 jokes.
That would be one. I'd be like, Dad, what does that mean? And he'd be like, but not to say there are Jewish athletes, guys, okay? Jeez.
Yeah, they're just one of themselves.
Yeah. So then this other random part that I like, but I have no idea like what this is about, and maybe this is on your list of things you don't get. Yeah. But the adult children. So there's these two children who are like adults in little kid bodies, and they're so weird, and like they just like talk like adults, and they're very proper, and like the little boy brings like a tray of coffee, and he's like, excuse me, I was just passing by with this coffee and thought you might like some. Oh, wow, that's very nice of you. And then she like invites him to sit down.
Why don't you sit down?
Yeah. And then he's like offers her cream, and she's like, no, thank you. I take it black, like my men. And then like sips. It's so great. And that's like definitely an oft repeated line, I feel like, in like today's culture. I take it black like my men. Like I feel like I've heard that before.
Oh, definitely.
And people have stolen it. But like, what is that? Like, is it just a silly thing? Like these children behaving like adults, or
I don't know.
Is it from something?
Yeah, I don't know.
I never know. Like that is weird. Okay, you go.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so then when I was little, this was definitely like my favorite part. So they have the little girl who has the heart transplant. So she's in the front of the plane in like a hospital bed. And Randy, one of the stewardesses, borrows a guitar from a nun on board, and who had all empty seats next to her. That's awesome. Well, she had the guitar in the seat, like not allowed. So anyway, so she's like, excuse me, sister, like there's a sick child on board. Can I borrow your guitar? So Randy goes to the front, and she's like, can I sing your daughter a song? And she sings this like really like awesome song too. I kind of like love that song.
There is only one river.
There is only one
like,
sea.
Everyone on the plane like starts.
And it flows through you.
I love the part where like she starts the song, and it's like really slow, and she's like strummy, and like all these people are just like smiling at each other, like yay, and then like the pilots all smile at each other.
That's my favorite when
in turns.
Yeah, that one guy.
Yeah, and then the one navigator like looks at the camera. It's so good.
So anyway, so she's like singing the song, and like gets way too into it, and she like moves the guitar, and it pops out the girl's IV, and she starts like she does basically what is like a fish face, like sucks her cheeks like way in, and she's like is like convulsing, and everyone's not paying attention because they're like so into the song, and the mom's like yeah, and they like don't notice, so she's able to plug it back in, and then she does it another time, and then the mom's like, oh, woman starts like freaking out. Oh my God, I like laughed at that so hard when I was little. I thought it was the funniest thing.
It's quite silly. But did you see in the beginning that Mayo Clinic call? He talks about the IV and how it's really important that it stays in.
Yep.
So like,
Oops.
whoopsies, Randy. Yeah. Randy's my favorite stewardess.
I know. She's so good.
Also, there's only 2 stewardesses on this plane, which is like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Usually there's like 10. But I love Randy. I love her. But yeah, that was a great part. Okay, so then we've got these 2 fellers who are black, and they speak in jive. And it's supposed to be a joke about how like white people can't understand black people and whatever. Like, obviously borderline offensive here / offensive, but apparently the jive in this scene is all like improv, and they're just saying nonsense words. So it just feeds into the joke of like white people don't know what they're saying. So then they have these subtitles on the bottom that like may or may not like actually be what they're saying, but it's just like a funny scene because at some point they come, so she takes their order for dinner or whatever. She gets that somehow. Later, when one of the guys is sick, his friend's trying to get the stewardess' attention and is trying to explain to her. And this old woman is like, "Excuse me, stewardess, I speak jive." And she like starts translating, and then the guys are like super offended. They're like, "What's your favorite part?"
So yeah, the one guy goes, "My mama raised no dummy." Like that's the part that he's
like
just,
I know
telling
what
her
she's
off.
saying. Yeah. But it's great. And then they have like a whole like confrontation. A lot of people's favorite part. I just think it's so great that they like improv'd all those lines.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Also, when I was doing my research on that scene, apparently Maya Rudolph can do that entire scene.
What?
Yeah, we should look that up.
Yeah.
She like memorized it when she was little.
Why I like that they do the subtitles, because you can see like why the stuff would be close to what they're trying to say. Like it does match up like sort of, and you see how clever it is because like they must have wrote the subtitles like after the guys did it or something. I don't know. But yeah, the jive talking is sweet.
Totes.
My mama raised no dummy.
What else? What do you got? What's next?
Okay. So then you have the part. So once they've realized that the plane is in trouble, you're not only on the plane anymore. You're also in like air traffic control of the airport they're trying to land at. So they're trying to go to Chicago, right? So then you get the whole dynamic of this Lloyd Bridges character, who basically is the guy like running the airport, I guess, or like running air traffic control or whatever. So he's like this hilarious guy. He has, all these guys who work for them, and he's trying to like help Ted out initially. So it's him, what we said kind of in the beginning, my first line, where he has these lines where he's like, I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. I picked the wrong week to
stop doing amphetamines.
And then the last one's sniffing glue, I think. So he's like out of it. And so I love all those scenes. And then when Kramer, who is like the Captain Kramer, who's like the guy who is a very experienced airplane pilot, so they bring him in to help Ted land the plane. So that part gets like really good too. But my favorite always, I was a kid, and this is totally like a kid thing, was like his little sidekick Johnny, who is like this flaming gay guy who apparently also all improv'd all of those lines, which is hilarious. So there's just everything he says is hilarious. So it just starts off with like the Lloyd Bridges character being like, "Hey Johnny, how about some coffee?" "No thanks."
"No thanks." He just like comes in and like walks by and says that. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that.
Yep. So like every Johnny thing is so funny. And so like I'm trying to remember like some of the ones he says.
So he goes, he hands him he's like looking at a report, and he's like, "Johnny, what do you make of this?" And takes it. "Well, it could be a hat or a scarf, a collar, or it could be
a brooch.
A brooch."
And he trills his R like a Scotsman. Oh my God, so funny.
They're like reading a newspaper, and they're like, they're like reading the headlines of this newspaper, and they're like passing it down the line. And then Johnny's the last person that gets it, and he opens it, and he's like, "There's a sale at Penny's." That was my favorite.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
I was obsessed with that line. I didn't think anything was funnier, maybe in this world, than that line. I don't know.
The Leon getting larger part.
The plane is getting the fog is getting thicker, and Leon's getting larger.
And then he jumps into the scene and like shakes the guy, and then like jumps out. So his physical comedy is like also very good. I don't know who that guy is, but he's like hilarious.
Did you notice he had an earring? I didn't notice that when I was little. It's like this stud in his ear. But then he just does like some kind of like silly things, like "Auntie, yeah, I'm Auntie," like Twister stuff, that kind of thing. But my other favorite thing that he does is when they're like about to land the plane and they see the lights on the runway, but then they go out and Elaine and Ted like look at each other and are like, and then you switches to Johnny with like a big plug in his hand. He's like, just kidding. And then he like plugs it back in. Yeah. Ugh, I love him.
And what about that scene where the pilot's wife comes and she's kind of like a psychopath and she's like really into men and just
horses.
And horses. Oh, that's a sweetie confusion for me. But so like, but then Johnny like tears her down. He's like, oh, what's with that dress and those shoes and that coat? God. Oh, horrible. Like, just makes her feel really bad. Like, I don't know. It's like, again, like super random humor, but I thought that guy was like so funny.
I love him. Oh, I love him. And then all the Leslie Nielsen stuff. So he has a couple like repeated lines, I guess. And the most famous one is that they keep being like, or there's a couple. Actually, there's like three most famous ones, I should say. So the first one is when they're like, doctor, or no, he goes, stewardess, we need to get these patients to a hospital right away. And they go, a hospital? What is it? And he goes, it's a building where you bring patients, but that's not important right now. So like they do that a couple times, and it's
for
like
different
a play on like words or whatever, and like meaning, which is very funny. And then they do the thing, Shirley, you can't be serious. And he says, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley, which is like maybe the most famous line. It might be on the AFI's list of 100 like most quotable things. Yeah. And then the last one, which is just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you, which he keeps coming back and delivering like 3 different times when they've like, and when they've already landed. It's pretty funny.
Do you remember when, I forget what award show, Emmys or Golden Globes or Oscars, and they were doing the like in memoriam, and like that was, I think he was the big person who died that year, and then that was the line that they put, and I just remember my like heart dropped because I was like,
well, remember, and our favorite spoof movie, one of our favorites, Scary Movie 3. Yeah. I think he does that because he's in Scary Movie 3, and he like tells
the president,
Charlie
right?
Sheen that or something. There's like a moment where he says that line, and it's it's so great. But yeah, his scenes are great. I also enjoy this really random as fuck part where like this woman is sick and it looks like she's gonna throw up, and she like opens her mouth and there's like a white thing in her mouth, and then he like puts his hand up and it's an egg, and she keeps just like popping out eggs out of her mouth, and then he cracks one open and a bird flies out and he like freaks out.
Okay, that was my sweetie confusion. Why do eggs come out of her mouth?
And why is she the only one?
I don't know. And I don't know how they did that scene, because at first was like, it's
don't
a
know
continuous.
oh my god!
No, it's a continuous shot.
Yes, but okay.
Sleight of
Oh my
hand.
God. So she has like a piece of white in her mouth that she just keeps in there, and she just keeps opening it a little bit so he shows it, and then he's doing sleight of hand. So he already has the egg in his
notice
hand,
that, but
and he like puts it up to her mouth.
Because what confused me was that the white thing in her mouth, and that's why I was like, how is she doing that? Okay, thank you for clearing that up for me, because I was watching this again today and I was still so confused.
Magician never reveals his secrets. But yeah, so she's the only one that happens to,
right.
And she's like not that sick for the rest of it. Like she's a little bit sick, but not like everybody else. But also. There's this couple.
Okay, we are the same person, because I have this note too.
Well, we've watched this with each other probably all the time, so we obviously have the same thoughts. Okay, so there's this family, husband, wife, and this little kid, Johnny. And Johnny goes to the cockpit, and that's a whole other joke, and that's where you get like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar joke, which I love. I'll just talk about that really quick because I love it so much. But so the joke on this is that like everyone knows it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he's being like this other character. So it's like one of those like not dramatic irony, but like I don't know how to explain it, but the kid like knows it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, so he sees this guy and he's like, hey, you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm Roger Murdoch. I'm a co-pilot of this plane. And then the kid just keeps saying all these things. He's like, my dad says, and he's like saying all these things.
I love you a lot, but my dad says like, you like don't hustle on the court, and like you don't
only
run
try
enough
during playoffs.
Yeah.
And then he just keeps getting like more and more annoyed, Kareem. And then at one point he just like grabs the kid and he's like hell I do. He's like, listen, kid. Yeah. And he just like says like this line.
Like, I am busting my buns every night. And he like gives him a like talking down to. Oh my God,
and then my favorite part is that when he passes out after eating the fish, they pull him out of the seat. And his whole bottom half is basketball shorts, and he's got the basketball goggles on. Oh my god! It's hilarious.
It's such a good touch. So I know.
And then the other joke on that is also the other pilot keeps asking Johnny if he's like seen naked men.
Is he a pedophile?
I don't know.
What is
like,
that joke
why
supposed
was he
to be?
reading that magazine in the beginning that's like sperm something? Maybe. I don't know. But that was creepy. So like that's that whole joke, which I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, he keeps asking like, has he been to men's locker rooms?
Turkish
like,
prison.
A Turkish prison.
Gladiator movies.
Ever seen a grown man naked?
Yeah.
Like, what?
It's very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
especially in today's
Right.
time. But so that family. So the dad and the wife have this like weird dynamic where like the wife keeps like thinking that she knows what her husband wants, but then he keeps like changing it. So they'll be like, would you like another cup of coffee? And she's like, I will, but Jim won't.
I guess that was a commercial. With the inner monologue of a wife doing that or something.
I think that's right.
So that was
I do
the,
remember
like,
reading that. And then he's
connection.
like, actually, I will have another cup of coffee. And then she goes, Jim never has a second cup of coffee at
I think
home.
when I was little, I thought it meant like
he was having an affair and she was suspicious?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Me too. So anyway, so this couple, they both get the fish, but for some unexplained reason, only the husband gets ill.
That's why I didn't understand when Randy asked her, like, what did you guys have? And she goes, I knew in my head that she didn't get sick the whole flight. And I'm like, oh, assuming she had the steak. But no, they both had the fish. Why did she get sick?
I don't know. I mean, some people just aren't affected.
Yeah.
All my friends went to Costa Rica and they all got food poisoning except for two.
Wow.
Johnny and I forget the other person, but
Oh my God.
just some people just don't have the like
Costa Rica.
food poisoning stomach. I don't know.
I mean, that's, yeah, I don't know.
I know.
I'm not a puker.
I know. We really aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only gotten that at that one time.
Speaking
but
of puking, that time when they're like basically Leslie Nielsen as the doctor is like giving a play-by-play of like what the illness does to you, and like the pilot is like listening.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. So my favorite part of that, obviously the fart part where he's like, and when the drooling, so he like is explaining what happens to you when you like get this illness, right? So the first thing is like you get a fever, and then there's like muscle spasm, and then drooling, and so then the guy like shoots out like baby like white drool, and it's like followed by like extreme flatulence, and he's like, and then he just passes out. Oh my God, I was like cracking up. It was so funny.
like-
A fart joke is never not funny to me.
But he like
Oh, man.
already knew at that point that it was the fish that was the problem, but he like forgot he had fish until he like looks over at his dinner plate and sees like the fish bone
I
on the
know.
plate. You're like, hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So
Wait, I still have one more favorite
okay.
scene.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. So another one that I like died at when I was little was a literal interpretation of something. So something happens. Oh, like Ted forgot to check the oil level or something. I don't know. I'm like, you have to do that on planes? And like the engine like crapped out, one of the 4 engines. So he's like, when Kramer hears this, the shit's really gonna hit the fan. And literally there's this fan in the air traffic control place, this huge pile of shit just ricochets onto the fan, and because it like hits the fan, it all like kind of comes like spewing out, and just this like little pile like plops on the ground. I thought that was the funniest shit,
funny.
no pun intended. When I was a kid, I laughed so hard at that, and I still do.
Yeah. I knew that was your favorite part.
Oh my
when
God.
that happened, I was like, that's Sweetie's favorite part.
I love it. I mean, it's so simple, but it's so effective.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of things like that. Like the reporters come in, they're like, okay, boys, let's take pictures. So instead of like taking photographs, they take the pictures off the wall. They're like, I'll take this one. I want this one.
Well, and what I like about that kind of level of comedy, and like you would say, okay, that's like really easy. Like, you know, that's easy shots, right? But you really realize like how English is such a complicated language, because we have all these sayings that like if you took them literally, yes, like you would do those things. But we all know growing up as like English speakers that you don't. And like we have all these sayings, they don't actually mean that and stuff like that. Or they can mean 2 things, right? Like that part where he's like, oh, they're flying on instruments up there. And it's like them in the cockpit, like all like playing instruments, like musical instruments. But they meant like, you know, the instruments of the plane, like the technical instruments. So it just like goes like, I don't know, just like reminds me how complicated a language English is, and almost like any language, but I think English is notoriously known for that kind of stuff, and how hard it is when you're ESL and like you're learning this language for the first time, and people like, like how do you learn those nuances as like this being your second language? I do not know.
I don't know.
Don't watch this movie because you'll be fucking confused.
No. So I don't know if I have any other. I mean, obviously, the whole movie is like a favorite thing, right? Like I'm not gonna like say every single line.
Yeah.
Like there's more that I love, but I'm just
We got a lot of them.
We got them. I think we got most of them.
Yeah.
So I want to hear about the rest of the things that you're still confused
Okay,
about
great.
today.
Okay, so so I'll do half and half. Ones I was confused about when I was little because I have a couple of those. Okay, so the Ethel Merman part, Did not understand why. I guess I didn't know who Ethel Merman was until later. Maybe not until I saw like Gypsy and whatever. So she was like an old Broadway like singer, right? Like vaudeville and Broadway and stuff like that. And so they actually have her in this movie. But the part is that it's in is that Ted's at the hospital and he is the Army hospital recovering, and all these other people are recovering around him. So he's like, you know, telling Elaine as she's like sitting next to him, like, what's the problem with all these people? So one guy like has severe PTSD and he still thinks he's in like a foxhole. So he's like trying to get under the bed and all crazy. And then he goes like, Captain whatever over there thinks he's Ethel Merman. And they go to the bed, and it's literally Ethel Merman in the bed singing her very famous song. You'll be great. Swell. You'll be great. Gonna have the whole world on a plate. Starting here, starting now. Everything's coming up roses. So that's from the musical Gypsy. She was very famous for that. It's really her. And so I thought that was like, I guess I didn't know who Ethel Merman was, but I also kind of maybe thought that was a guy dressed up in drag. Because she's kind of a beefy-looking woman, and apparently in the trivia they said, like, it took her forever to do her hair. She's only in, like, such a small shot.
It was her last movie.
And it was her last movie?
She died.
Oh, my God.
Right after this. Yeah.
Oh, my God. So good. But I was definitely confused about that. And then, okay. Still confused about this. Why is the wife having an affair with a horse?
I think it's just like her husband's away, so like she's having an affair, but it's a horse. I don't know. It might be like a gross like sexual joke where like I was thinking like bestiality penis. Like thing and like big horse whatever. Penis. Yeah. But yeah,
because she is kind of like loves men and flirts with men and what like is she's really feeling up that other pilot.
So she's with like a stud. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really get that either. Yeah. Maybe it was like a joke, a thing in the 80s or whatever that, you know. Yeah.
Okay, here's a political one I don't get. Surprise, surprise, because I'm like a history major.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm shocked at that.
Okay, when they tell the wife of the pilot comes in and they're telling her like the status of everyone, and they're like, "Don't worry, your husband is alive but unconscious." And Johnny goes, "Just like Gerald Ford."
Because was he like unconscious at this time? Was he like in a coma or something?
No, I don't know if that's just maybe it was like a knock on his personality.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe? Like he wasn't a good president because he's just
alive but like, unconscious. Because I think he was just kind of like, dumb. Yeah. Okay, we figured it out. Good. Because I was like, what does that mean?
You gotta talk these things.
You gotta talk them out. Yeah. Okay. Did they have car phones then?
No. Well, it's like I mean, maybe. I'm trying to think. I feel like there's another movie. Well, like in Big, like the limo had like a phone. Remember? Yeah. I think it was like certain fancy cars must have had it, but that could have been like war technology or something. I don't know.
How do they work?
Well, how did those the phones in in Vietnam work? Is like a walkie-talkie. It's probably like radio signals or something. I don't know.
Yeah, instead of like
I don't know. I
mean, how do phones work today?
Exactly. Don't ask me how a fax machine works. I still don't know.
So crazy. Okay, so I already said it, but Robert Stack, the main guy, who I love his voice, really good,
so calming.
I know. Oh my God,
love it.
So he's for us again another person who like I think had a pretty celebrated career as like an actor, but we all knew him as the Unsolved Mysteries guy because that's what he did like later in his pretty much the end of his life. That's like all he did. But he's awesome, and that voice is so great, and he does like tons of monologues, and I love at the end where he's just like giving Ted a speech, and he's still like, and Ted walks away, and he's talking for like hours and hours and hours because he just like loves to talk. Love it. Okay, and then I just have some people that are in this, other people to talk about. So one of the Hare Krishna guys is this actor called David Leisure, who was in the Brady Bunch movie, but I didn't remember what character. He's also in 10 Things I Hate About You as the
teacher, gross teacher?
Yeah, I think so. And he just has a very familiar face, but he was in like every 90s TV show.
I think I know which one you're talking about because I thought his face looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. Yeah,
definitely. I thought like he looks almost like John Larroquette or something maybe. I don't know if you know who that is.
No, I don't.
But anyway, yeah. So but he's been in like every 90s TV show. That's like his whole IMDb. Okay, this one was crazy to me today, okay? And then I told Sweetie, and she's like, what? Okay. Mike from Breaking Bad, guys. What's that actor's name? I forget. You all know him as that. He is in this movie. He's crazy young. He is so in IMDb he's listed as Gunderson. I'm like, who the fuck is Gunderson? Like, you cannot figure it out until you finally see him. He's the guy in the air traffic control, so where the radar is. So if you remember, like, the spoofs in that are like they are playing like an Atari game on the radar, and then one guy's like doing his laundry because it's like those. It looks like a dryer. Like the radar is a big circle window, you know. So those are like the spoofs in that. But he's the guy doing the radar and being like, you know, like, where's this guy like coming in and blah blah blah. So at one point he's like, he's up at 30,000 feet. He's all over the place. What an asshole. Like, it wasn't until the very end and I saw it and I'm like, oh my god, that's him. But like,
he did a bunch of. Well, he was in Gremlins too.
Oh my god,
like he was one of the police officers.
Yeah,
and we're like, wow. So he must have had like a comedy, a little bit of start. A lot of people start off in comedy, you know,
totally.
Except for the main actors who started off as dramas and went to comedy. But yeah.
And then we already said the James Hong guy. Yep, the Chinese one, and I think that was it. And they had a lot of, again, like older actors in this who are, again, like, we're not super familiar with, but I think if our parent, I think one was like the Leave It to Beaver mom or something like that, or Ozzie and Harriet
Cleaver?
mom. No, like one of those, maybe Ozzie and Harriet. So people who are like, you know, pretty big people at the time, which, you know, we just are like, oh, that old lady.
What about? Okay, wait. Here's a part that I like don't really get. Like, I get why it's funny, but like it's so random. When like Kramer is driving to the airport and he's like a bad driver or something and just keeps like hitting all these people, and then like the funny, like the background images are just like all these different weird things. It's so random.
Well, and then why is one like a cavalry behind
Well, that's
him?
why it's random. It's just like a spoof on how like they're not really driving in the car. Like you could put anything like behind them, and it's just
that
like
makes
they're
sense.
obviously it's not
And then
real.
also that same scene, so it's the one before where the kid comes to go get him, and then the dog is like crazily attacking him. What is
weird.
up with that? But I
it's
love
like
the wife, and I always like hear this, Shep, get over
Oh,
here.
I thought it was Chip.
No, Shep is like the name of the dog, and I always hear that in my head. Shep, get over here.
It's so
he
funny.
just loves new people. Like,
And it's like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
It's like not a mean dog or whatever. That part's that kid is so random.
I don't know. It's so
he like comes
random.
and picks him up, but then he's just like gone for the
Right.
rest of the movie.
Right.
It's weird. I also a couple. I'm like remembering like all these little tiny parts that I love still. There's like parts in the beginning where they're like getting ready on the plane. More like airport humor. So like the guys that have like the things that like wave the planes to like tell them where to go. So there's a guy doing that, and then the guy comes over and is like, do you know where blah 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 is? And the guy's like, you go to the right, and he's like doing it with his hands with the things. So the plane thinks he's directing him, and it like goes straight into like the airport and crashes through the window. Amazing. Another really random part. They're like, there's this like gas station attendant like gassing up the plane in the beginning, and like the hood is up, and he like is doing like he's like checking the oil, doing all this stuff, and then he like tries to like get the hood of the plane down, and like it's stuck, and he like tries it, and he like falls off, but he's so high up, he's like whoa, and just like falls. It's so weird.
yeah.
The credit card machine that like they pull up to the window, and the pilot like puts the card in and
For
like
your
does
gas?
it. Yeah, it's silly. It's just like silly stuff like that. Yeah, you know, it's good stuff. Good stuff. I feel like there was more. There's more when like Ted is trying to fly the plane and he's like having a hard time, and he's like, it'll feel clunky to you at first, and he's like, whoa, and like can't do it.
Oh,
It's like, how does it feel
a
to
real
you?
big one that I thought was like, and I did get this sex joke when I was little, is when looks like she's giving a blowjob to the automatic pilot. So in a sense, like that scene is kind of like for me now. It's not as funny as it used to be, but my favorite part is still like when Leslie Nielson comes in, he like sees it, and he's like, oh, and like is like, oh, I'm interrupting something, and like gets out. So like the inflatable pilot, the automatic pilot deflates, and she's like, what do I do? And they're like, there's a knot, like you know, and something to blow into, like at his belt buckle, like you have to blow in there and blow him back up. So it looks like she's giving him a blowjob, and then like the automatic pilot has like its own like personality, to the point he like kind of molests her. Like he like gets thrown into the back, and then he like is all over Elaine, and when she gets up, his hands are on her boobs.
Yeah, Otto.
He's a raper.
Yeah.
I don't like
that Otto. Also, I just remember this funny part where Randy's like crying because she's so scared, and she's like, I'm 26 and I'm not married. And she's like, and we're like, oh geez. So then I think it's the wife of the husband. They both had fish, but she's fine. Yeah. She comes in and she's like, "Oh, it's so awful. Like, I'm so scared, but at least I'm married." And then she walks away, and Randy's like, it's pretty funny. I mean, people did get married.
Yeah.
Early at
Carol
26.
Did.
So
Carol did.
Funny back then, but now we're like, oh my God, please.
My God. If you get married at 26, you're like, crazy.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Like, you're nuts. Get into crash positions. I think that's funny.
That's funny. They just like compile, like do this like silly things. The flotation device is like a duck thing.
It's just way too many. I mean, there's so much stuff in here. It's like every single thing is a funny joke.
But I'm like, like I've always wanted to, even though I know I don't want this to happen, but because of this movie, I secretly want to go down the slide that they do if like you land in the ocean or whatever. Like there's a crash landing and the steps don't open, whatever. The slide just seems like fun. Do you think they would just like do it for shits? Like they probably do to like train them. Yeah, and they like have to go down it.
Flight attendant training now.
You have to like go down and like crush your arms.
Yeah,
like, I don't know. Seems fun. Also, we never visit like the girl with the IV. Like for the rest, like did she
got that?
I hope
transplant.
she didn't eat the fish. Like
I know. Well, I don't think she was eating. It sounds like she had the IV. You know? God. I hope she got that heart transplant.
Yeah, I hope it worked out.
Lisa. Oh my God,
yeah,
so funny. Okay, let's close with I found this in the trivia and I thought it was hilarious. Again, something that like is sometimes in the trivia, sometimes not, but they tell you what the movie was called in other countries, which I always think is really funny. Because it's like, why wouldn't you... Okay, this is an easy movie title, right? It's called Airplane. Why wouldn't you just call, like, what is it in Spanish? El avión or something. Like, why wouldn't you just do that? But they don't do that because in foreign titles, especially when it's like an English movie, I think they want it a little bit more about like what the movie's about. So in Norway, this movie was called Help, We're Flying.
That's good.
Like, what? Okay.
Like it. I wish
in
that was
Spanish, it was, hey, where's the pilot?
I mean,
Very
it makes
literal.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
And this fits for Italy. Italy, it was the craziest plane in the world.
Exclamation point?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't this funny?
I mean, those are better titles. Maybe they should petition to like change it to those full time. I don't know. Just a thought. I feel like there's a case of that we do that in English, but I can't think of it now. Where like it's called, you know what I mean? Like we did like a remake or something.
Yeah.
But we like call it something, a different title than like what they call. I don't know. I'm sure there's cases of that. Everybody does it. Whatever. But yeah. Woo. But yeah, this is the fun one. Again, like not a lot to discuss. It's just us like rehashing our favorite lines, but whatever. We all need a good laugh.
So fun. And we're going to do we said like a couple more spoofs for sure because we got to do Robin Hood Men in Tights. I fucking love that movie. It's so good. And then, we could do some, I mean, Hot Shots was pretty fun. I remember liking that one.
That.
Oh,
what is
those
that
are pretty
about?
Funny.
Like it's like Top Gun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So Charlie Sheen, who is kind of like the king of the spoofs. Like he's done so many.
Because he went back and did Scary Movie 3, our one of our favorite spoofs.
But he kind of has that like delivery too, where it's just kind of like a little bit like straight man doing comedic stuff, very straight.
I just watched Platoon this past weekend, and he's like a great actor.
Yeah.
So it's just like whoa, and then he's so, and now he's like insane. So whatever, but.
The Naked Guns I love.
I haven't seen those in a really long time.
I really saw the third one the most.
Why did we see that so much?
Well, because it was closer to like when we were really watching movies.
Yeah.
So that's the one with Anna Nicole Smith and randomly the guy from Tremors, remember?
Yes.
And then one is
the
like
bad guy?
So yes.
Oh my god. And O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson, all those. So that's like kind of weird now. But oh man, I used to love those. Priscilla Presley, random but awesome.
So weird.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those. They're so funny.
Yeah,
so maybe we'll just do one of those, our favorite one. Because they're funny, man. And I'm telling you, like, you are in a bad mood, like, you should watch a spoof. Because I was in a bad mood today, but I was, like, kind of tired. I took a nap, and I was like, kind of groggy. This really woke me up. I mean, I felt very cheerful at the end of this watching.
Excellent. I love it.
Excellent.
But yeah, do you love Airplane? Do you love spoofs? What's your favorite spoof?
What's your favorite spoof?
Let us know.
Spoofing.
Mine are Robin Hood Men in Tights, Spaceballs, Airplane, Scary Movie 3.
Yep. Yeah, those are such good ones,
Guys,
man.
Scary Movie 3, and I talked about this last weekend with my friends, because my friend Johnny Vaught has never seen Robin Hood Men in Tights, and he refuses to because he loves Robin Hood Prince of Tides so much that he like thinks
Prince
it's offensive.
of Tides. Oh my god, you just combined two movies. It's
Oh,
amazing.
no.
Prince of Thieves. Prince of Tides is that movie with Nick Nolte,
Okay,
Barbra Streisand.
whatever. It's confusing. They're basically the same.
No, they're
title.
not.
The same title, not the same movie. God. But yeah. So and I thought that was hilarious. And then I was like asking him all these things. I was like, "Is there an old crone?" And then I like talk about the latrine joke. So whatever. I can't wait to do that one. Yeah. But Scary Movie 3, I cannot give props to that movie like enough. Like I know the Scary Movies got like out of hand, but Scary Movie 3 is like one of the best movies in the world. It is such great spoofs. It's like so amazing. It spoofs like not just horror movies, but like 8 Mile and like a bunch of other, it's just like really good.
And what
Highly
I like
recommend.
about spoofs is that so they did make a sequel of this. Do you see that? I've never seen it.
No.
But like none of the main people returned. Like some of the smaller parts did, but like none of the main people returned because they're like, we did this enough. Oh, and I don't think the directors did either, so these guys weren't involved. But so they do sequels. But what I like about spoofs is that like in those cases, like sometimes the sequels are better than the original. They just keep getting better because they're able to like build off of it. Like you said, so your favorite scary movie is like that last one. Like I think like all the Naked Guns are good, but
That's
I think
not
the
the
third
last
one
one.
is like really good.
There was a 4 and a 5,
right?
after
But like
that.
middle one,
Yeah.
let's say. So it's not even like the original one.
Yeah.
Like
But
Hot
some of
Shots
it-
had
yeah.
Hot Shots Part Duh, and I remember that was hilarious.
Some of it has to do with like too with like Scary Movie. It's like which movies they spoof. Like
Yeah.
if you haven't seen any of those movies, like it's not going to be as funny to you. But yeah, the third one just is like The Ring, 8 Mile, or like the main ones. It's so random.
And it's also
And
watching
Signs.
spoofs like a really good test of in general like what your level of pop culture knowledge is, and we're like pretty damn good at that stuff because we like watch everything. Like we're not like we don't pick and choose. We basically know everything about everything. And so that's I think why also we like spoofs so much is because we get those jokes. And I agree. Like if you are basically living under a rock, do not watch a spoof because you'll be like, I don't think this is funny. I don't get this because it's like, half the stuff is like callbacks.
Yeah.
So
totally
there you go. That's my theory. I'm gonna write a paper on it. Thanks.
cool. You have so many papers you need to write.
I know. Oh my god.
Better get
I'm
on
gonna
it.
like make my own college about
the Sweetie
Club.
College.
Sweetie College.
Sweetie College. Yeah.
Sweetie University. College or university? What's the difference?
I mean, I
Size?
always thought university was size. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought they were like bigger, but I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows?
I feel like we're more like a college.
Yeah, Sweetie College.
Yeah.
It just seems right.
Yep.
Private, liberal arts.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Only 10 people.
Well, get your applications in now. We do not accept bribes. Lori, Uncle, Aunt Becky, get out of here.
Becky.
Anyways, we love you. Come find us on Twitter or on Instagram. We're at the Sweetie Club on Twitter and Large Marchandise on Instagram. Come and find us. Thank you, as always, for listening. Bye.